Hi, my friends. Welcome to Inside the Minds of Authors. I'm DC Gomez, your host, and also an indie author. I'm thrilled you're joining me today for another fun interview with a passionate author. We're going to kick off this show with an exciting reading, so let's get started.
Good morning. My name is Sandra Biersdorfer, and I write children's books. And the book I've chosen to read a little bit from today is The Kitty with the Itty Bitty Tail. I think it's just a really neat little book, so I'm going to get started reading it to you. It starts out, ring, ring, ring. The alarm clock trumpets loudly. Ethel opens her eyes, yawns, and stretches really big before she realizes it is the first day of school. Suddenly, she looks sad. Mother Kitty enters Ethel's room. Why, what's the matter, dear? Mother Kitty asks. Nothing, Ethel responds in a groan. I think there's something wrong. You look so sad. Aren't you excited about the first day back to school? Not really. Well, but why? I don't want to go to school because all the other cats make fun of my tail. They laugh at me and call me names like Stubby Nubby, and then they laugh like hyenas. I don't like being called Stubby Nubby. So what if I have a short tail? What's the big deal? Wonders Ethel. Well, I agree, dear. Teasing is not nice and it hurts your feelings. However, you still have to go to school. Besides, you'll see your best friends Mary Lucy and Mary Jane, Mother Kitty points out. I know, but all the other cats are so mean. They're pointing to my tail and snickering. Oh, how I wish I didn't have to go back to school, Ethel cries and throws herself back under her covers in despair. Finally, however, Ethel dresses in her newest outfit and brushes her teeth, eats her breakfast, and reluctantly starts her first day back to school. As reluctant as Ethel had been to begin the first day of school, she returned home just the opposite. She eagerly shared the events of her first day with her mother. She saw her friends Lucy and Mary Jane. She met her new teacher, Miss Gabby Tabby, and thought she was really nice. The cafeteria served her favorite lunch, peppy pepperoni pizza with extra cheese, and she played soccer at recess. The best part was no one called her any bad names. She had actually had a great first day back to school. Soon, however, the very thing she was afraid of happening started to happen. The other kids stared at her short tail, pointed at it, and snickered. Sometimes they laughed out loud and called her Stubby Nubby. The meanest cats laughed really loudly, pointed at her tail, and chanted, Oh, look who's coming down the hall. It's Stubby Nubby, her tail so small. During recess, she was the very last person to be chosen on any team to play in any of the games. She always seemed to be chosen last. Nobody ever wants me on their team, Ethel pouted sadly. She wanted to run away and hide. She wanted to be invisible. No one could tease her then. I wonder if Mother would allow me to be homeschooled, she thought hopelessly on the way home one day from school. But she knew her problem was not going to go away that easily. One night, she dreamed that she was the most popular cat in school and everyone wanted to be her friend. She smiled and waved to everyone as she entered the school building, and rather than teasing her, they admired her long, flowing, fluffy, furry tail. Oh, I just love your tail, one exclaimed. How do you keep it so well groomed? Another asked. If only I could be like you, yet another cat declared. Come, play on our team, they begged her during recess. Ethel purred and smiled while she slept throughout the rest of the night. The next day, when she arrived at school, she looked for Lucy and Mary Jane, and she found them talking to a girl she had never seen before. She approached them to introduce herself. Hi, I'm Ethel Kitty. Yeah, right, snorted one of the mean cats as he passed them. Her name isn't Ethel, it's Stubby Nubby, he yelled, and a number of the cats roared with laughter. Take a gander at her little itty bitty tail. There's something wrong with her, said another cat. Really, the new cat smiled shrewdly. Would you like to see my tail? Without waiting for them to reply, she swiftly removed her long coat she was wearing, and a hush fell over the crowd. Most of them gasped upon seeing her tail, or rather, her lack of a tail. Where is your tail? The mean cat stammered. Well, you see, my name is Millicent Manx. Cats from the Manx family do not have tails, she explained. Everyone in the group stood speechless. Are you going to tell me there's something wrong with me? Millicent stood proudly. No, they shrieked. Well, then, you must realize it isn't polite for you to continue to make fun of Ethel because of her tail. Maybe the tails you need to be concerned with are your own, said Millicent. Shocked, the rest of the cats didn't have anything to say. They were too stunned and stood still with their mouths wide open and whiskers sticking straight out. Boing! Millicent was new to the school, but she stood up not only for herself, but also for Ethel. And Ethel had made a new friend. She felt happy and safe at school for the first time in a very, very long time. She was no longer afraid to face the other cats. After school, Ethel invited Millicent to come over to her house for an after school snack party along with Lucy and Mary Jane. Millicent gladly accepted. Thank you for sticking up for me, Ethel said to Millicent. No problem. I have been dealing with mean cats all my life. They think I'm different or there's something wrong with me just because I don't have a tail. Most bullies are either bullied by others themselves or they just like to feel big by trying to make you feel so small. I've learned to look them in the eye and stand up to them. That takes away their power. So, what if I don't have a tail and you have a small tail? So, what if most of them have normal tails? Who cares? What is normal anyway? We are all different and unique. That's what makes each of us special. Plus, I know I'm still a cool cat, Millicent joked as she smiled and winked at Ethel. I agree, exclaimed Ethel. And look on the bright side, Millicent pointed out. Well, what do you mean? Asked Ethel. Well, I think having a small tail or no tail at all is kind of a good thing. It's easier to keep clean. It doesn't get caught in doorways or under rocking chairs or stepped on by other cats' paws. Millicent laughed out loud. And soon, contagious laughter was followed by Lucy's, Mary Jane's, and most importantly, Ethel's. And that's the end of the story.
Hi, everyone, and welcome to another episode of Inside the Minds of Authors. Hi, Madame. How are you?
I'm great. How are you?
I am fabulous. I am so happy you're joining us. Welcome.
Oh, well, thank you. I'm glad to be able to do this.
I am so excited and I can't wait to jump in. Let's talk about the book. We're going to talk about your career. So let's get started. Where did this story come from?
Well, it actually came from a cat that unfortunately I no longer have. Her name is Ethel. She was a stray cat. She had an itty bitty tail. When I got her, it looked like you could literally just break off the end of her tail, but you don't want to do that because that's, their back. Of course, that's mean anyway. You wouldn't do that. As she got older, it got furrier and it grew to about 4 inches, maybe, which is, that's really short for a cat's tail. Just one day I'm looking at her and I had already written my first book, Nana's Banana. And I'm looking and I'm just like, that would be a really cute story to write about. You're special no matter what, because, if you have a short tail or, you have to wear braces or you have to wear glasses or you have to wear knee braces or you're in a wheelchair, just whatever, something that's different about you, and as kids being kids will be curious and sometimes they, are mean and make fun of you for that. So I was like, that would be a really cute story. So I sat down and kind of started writing it. Of course, the first draft was like, no, this isn't right. I don't like, I cut it because I was trying to do it instead of prose, I was trying to do it more in poetry. And the more I wrote, I was just like, okay, stop, no, start over. And so the end result I was really happy with. And actually, publishing process went the easiest of probably all my books. It was just like hardly any issues in editing, hardly any issues with illustrations. It was just, I don't know. It was almost too good to be true. I was like, okay, this can't be this easy. But anyway, that's where the idea started.
Do all of your books come with these powerful messages? Are you looking to inspire, educate? What is your message to these kids? Because this is beautiful.
Well, thank you. For this story, it's definitely about being kind, not bullying. And then when I read the book to children at schools, I also include, don't be afraid to tell your teachers. Don't be afraid to tell your principals. Don't be afraid to stand up and not be mean back, but to help that other student, whether you're actually friends or not, stand up for them, help them stand up for themselves. And if somebody's bullying you, don't be afraid to tell your teacher. Don't be afraid if they say, if you tell on me, I'll blah, blah, blah. It's like, well, we'll just see about that. I'm still going to tell because this needs to stop. Bullying and now cyberbullying, it's out of control. We've got to start with these kids are unfortunately old enough to understand it at whatever level they can understand, as they're in preschool and they're in elementary school and on, onward and so forth. As far as the special message in my other books, I try to do that with Nana's Banana and Papa's Pumpkin, and they're both based on family, actually. What I try to do with them is just instill the sweetness of family bonding and how important family is. And I think for that, for me, that comes from missing out on a lot of my grandparents because some of them had already passed away before I was even born or when I was little. It makes me wonder, like, what were they like? What did they sound like? What was their favorite flower? And so I'm having to ask brothers and relatives I still have, cousins and stuff like, what was Grandpa so and so like? And I mean, I can see pictures, and I actually have a few pictures of my granny holding me. That was my mother's mother. But I mean, I was a baby when she died. I don't remember her voice. I don't, it's like I see a picture of me with her, but I never got that chance to know her. So I feel kind of, in a way, kind of cheated. On the other flip side of that, I've had the great experience of having a bonus family because my mom and dad divorced when I was young, but remarried. And so I had, a bonus grandmother, and she was awesome and she was a hoot. Oh my goodness. We also had a couple in where I grew up, and they kind of adopted everybody that they knew. Some people refer to them as play grandparents. So we weren't related by blood or anything, but they were just, oh my God, they were so instrumental in my childhood because they were there for us, loved us when they loved my parents when even when my parents split up, they still kept in touch with my dad and loved him and loved my stepdad, loved all his kids. It was just, they loved everybody. They were just good Christian people. They just tried not to be judgmental. We called them Mom and Pop Myers, and they were our family. No blood ties at all, but they had our heartstrings for sure. And then my latest book, it's called Shadows Forever Home: An Adoption Journey, and it's actually my first chapter book. And it's not a beginning reader chapter book because it's pretty wordy. There's actual long sentences. There's 12 chapters. Some are shorter than others. And the message I have for that one, it's also family oriented. It's got that family theme base in it as well. Basically, family doesn't have to be blood. It can be somebody that's got your heartstrings and that loves you and takes care of you. And you can have, a birth family. You can have an adopted family. You can have a bonus family. Whoever fills up your heart, basically.
That is so beautiful, madam. So are your books all in a series or they're all standalone?
They're not really in a series because actually I wrote Nana's Banana, then The Kitty with the Itty Bitty Tail. Then I wrote Papa's Pumpkin. So you could say Nana's Banana, Papa's Pumpkin are kind of like a series, but I didn't intend it that way. But however, my new book, Shadows Forever Home, an adoption journey, I will write a sequel to that one. I have an outline. I'm working on it. I'm not quite there yet, but it will actually have a sequel because you'll find out kind of the background, like where did he come from, what happened. And it's also called Shadows Forever Home, but it's the journey continues or the adventure continues, I believe, is the subtitle for that one. But I have a lot of ideas in mind for series. Trust me, I'm always thinking, thinking, thinking. But my work schedule is kind of so crazy, especially with summer right now, that that's about the that's about the limit I get to is thinking about it and actually not having the time to sit and do the writing like I need to while the ideas are still there. But I take a lot of notes and I do outlines and write down ideas, or if I see or hear a saying that I really like, I'm like, I'll write that down. That I might use that somewhere or something similar to it. That's where I am so far.
It works. We all have processes that help us get back into the writing. I love that
Hmm.
you take notes. I love that you're writing things down. Question on the books again. What age would you say your books are currently for?
I would say the first three, which is the Nana's Banana, Papa's Pumpkin, and the Kitty with the Itty Bitty Tail. I would say all of those are good for pre-K through any elementary grade, probably fourth grade. And I also tell people too that a lot of it depends on the maturity of the child, the reading level of the child, and of their overall interest. Because for me, honestly, Nana's Banana is more for like pre-K, kindergarten, first, second grade maybe. But I've read it to fourth graders when I've had enough time after I've read the kitty book, thinking, okay, y'all, this may be a little bit babyish, but then they're like, no, we liked it. That was funny. So, it kind of depends. Now, Shadows Forever Home, since it's a chapter book, and I call it, I don't know if there's really a category. I call it a middle reader chapter book because it's not beginning, just short sentences like, Dick and Jane walk Spot. It's definitely not like that. It's full sentences, and some of the chapters, like I said, are a lot longer than others. You can read it to that age group as well, but in my opinion, it's more for like third and fourth grade and up. So I think, of course, adults can enjoy it as well, and middle school kids and the upper elementary kids. And I do suggest if you do read it to the younger kids that don't have the attention span, maybe read like a chapter a day or something like that. Or even if it's a longer chapter, do part of the chapter and then read the rest of it later. So
I usually get that question a lot, like, how old do they need to be? Are they going to
Hmm.
enjoy it? So that's a very awesome answer. It also helps the fact that you are answering the fact that if somebody's reading it to them. That's something very, very powerful when you're reading to kids. How long is this book going to be? And can I break it up? Most people never think about it. Okay, do a chapter a night to get their attention going.
Right.
I love it. You said you've been going to schools. How is the process of going to a school as a children's author and reading your books? How does that work?
It's a little different this last year because, of the pandemic and everything. So I did have a chance to do some Zoom readings like and everything. And I love that because unfortunately the pandemic happened. But one, I guess, kind of, if you would call it a positive thing, is it's like I realized I can do this all the time. I don't have to just do it during a pandemic. If there's a school in Walla Walla, Washington, if I know somebody there that's a teacher or a librarian or principal, whatever, and they're like, hey, we want you to read to our class, I can get on a Zoom meeting and read to the class. I don't have to travel there. So, and of course, I have traveled to some of the local schools. It's usually if they have like a career day and they have all kinds of community leaders come in. I've done that a few years in a row. And that's fun too because I'm meeting like other nurses and maybe doctors or veterinarians or policemen, firemen, and or trainers. It kind of just depends on what's going on. And then I'm not just reading to one class, I'm reading to 7 or 8. I don't remember how many was it. I think it was around 7 a day. There was one school in the Aldine School District, and I knew it's one of the teachers that taught kindergarten there. And she, since they moved all the kindergarten and pre-K to their own pre-K and kindergarten centers in that district, so that teacher's no longer there. But while she was there, she let me know about the community leaders and things. And so I did that one for like 3 years in a row. And what they do is while the community leaders come in, they actually serve breakfast and, do a little speech. And so everybody's kind of assigned to like a different classroom for 30 minutes. And then it's kind of like how you do in, schools nowadays. And I started in middle school. You got like 5 minutes and you change classes. So they'd have you go around to, they'd give you a map and they'd give you your schedule and you'd go around to all these different classes and, introduce yourself and tell them what you do and then read the book and talk about the book. And this is the one I've usually read because I want, this message to go out to the little ones.
How long have you been writing for?
Oh, goodness. I would say actually writing, not to be published, since 2010. But just writing in general, probably since junior high, because I have a collection of poems that, as now I look at back and I go, oh my God, that's so corny. But probably junior high when I would actually write poems. And I still love to write haikus because it's kind of easy. You just do 5, 7, and 5 syllables and you're done. It doesn't have to rhyme. It doesn't even have to make sense. It just has to mean something to you and something that you hope will, mean something to someone else. But as far as publishing, I wrote Nana's Banana actually because it's about my great nephew and his Nana, which is his mom's mother. I wrote it when he was a baby and he was born in April of 2010 and he just turned 11. So and so now I don't read it to his classes anymore because that will embarrass him. But I did actually read it to a couple kindergarten and I think second or third grade. So 2 or 3 of his classes. So that's about how long I've been writing.
Awesome. Do you have an author that has inspired you?
Oh my gosh, so many. So many. Because I love children's book authors. Unfortunately, Eric Carle just passed away. I love his books. Oh my God, they're so awesome. Shel Silverstein. And of course, when my kids were little, that we always had to get the newest Berenstain Bears book, the newest Little Critter book. Golly, there are just so many. But as far as an adult, the reading that I like to do, I love mysteries. I love women's books. So I love Debbie Macomber. I love of course, Mary Higgins Clark is no longer with us. I loved all her books. I love an author named Wendy Corsi Staub, who I've met a couple of times. She's not mainly as well known, maybe like Mary Higgins Clark, but to me, she's very well known. Oh my gosh. Oh, I loved James Patterson. I love Barbara Delinsky. I love Joy Fielding, Nicholas Sparks. So I love romance and I love the mysteries and thrillers. I'm not so much into sci-fi. I'm not so much into the fantasy, but I love paranormal stuff. Oh, I love that.
And it's actually a very huge spectrum of books, which is kind of fun and it gives you a huge range of works to look at. So when you
Mhm.
decided to start writing, why did you decide to do children's books?
To be honest, because I thought it would be easier than writing a novel, but it's necessarily not. Because as you can see, I'm a little bit long winded and I got to really cut stuff down, make it a lot more concise when you write a children's book. Because especially, when you're vetting it out to a publisher, they're looking for this to this so many words, and they're pretty specific about that. And so it's like, oh my gosh, this is like 2,000 words. This is like, this is a children's book novel. It's not just a children's book. Of course, the attention span and everything, you got to keep that in mind, and along with the age group. So that's really honestly the reason I started with children's books, because I do want to write a novel or novels someday. And I get ideas all the time. I mean, somebody can just be walking down the street and I'm like, where are they going? Where'd they just come from? Did they just kill somebody? Well, if they did, how'd they do it? Where are they going? Is their partner just down the street, or, what's going on around here? And then it's like, okay, focus. You're doing something else. But it's like, no, my creative juices are flowing. I've got to think about this.
What advice would you give an up and coming author who's trying to decide, I want to be a children's author? What would you tell them?
I tell them, all the authors, of course, to go for it, but especially children's book authors, because they usually have a message too that they want to pass along to kids to help them. And if you help them now, maybe that will kind of not cut out, but reduce in some way, greatly, hopefully, some of these social issues like bullying, things like that. And to not give up. I mean, if you have to learn how to self-publish, or it takes a long time to send out your queries and to find it either an agent or a publisher, don't give up. Don't say, this is a waste of my time. No, it's not. I feel like, maybe that's part of your purpose on being on this planet, is to spread this message and to help other people and other families and other children. Because if you help the kids, you're definitely helping the family.
It is a great way to open those doors. It helps unify people. I love it. So,
Mm-hmm.
Madame, it's been a pleasure and so much fun. But before we go, we're going to switch over to a lightning round. Are you ready?
Uh-oh, okay.
They're easy peasy, not hard questions, I promise. Don't think too hard on this. First thing that comes into your mind, let's see how you did. Coffee or tea?
Oh, coffee.
See, easy peasy. Wizard or knight?
I guess night.
You're not a fantasy person, so I can see that being a hard one. That's okay. Ebooks or print? We already said this one.
Print.
So here's a little different style. Let's see how you do. If you could be any character in any movie, who will you be?
Oh, goodness. I would love to be Nancy Drew.
Okay. Why?
But I love mysteries, and that's one of my favorite series from childhood. And even as an adult, I will read the Nancy Drew books over and over and over, even though I know what's going to happen. And they're written in the 50s, so they're kind of corny to us now, but I don't care. I will read them over and over and over. I just love her spunk, and I love her creative, inquisitive mind. And of course, like I said, I love mysteries. Oh, I'd love to be Nancy Drew.
Awesome. So here's the last one. If you had one food that best describe you, what would you pick?
One food, huh? I guess pizza, because like pizza, I'm made up of different toppings, and some of them are salty and some of them are sweet.
I love that. That's pretty awesome. Where
Uh-huh.
can our listener find you? Where can they find your books? Where they can get more information about you?
All the books are on Amazon, and paperback and ebook, and all but the shadow book are also Audible. You can listen to them in Audible. I don't know that my publisher has found a narrator yet for the shadow book. She had someone lined up and it fell through. And I actually just haven't asked her lately if she's found anyone else. But so definitely Amazon. And also I'm on Facebook, and just my name, Sandra Biersdorfer. And then I made a Facebook page for each of the books. So somebody could go on there and say, hey, I like the book. I've checked it out on Amazon, because you can always look at a free sample and stuff. I'd like to actually order it from you, and we can go from there. You can order it from me. Just message me on Facebook, or I have a Gmail that I let my readers email me, and it's Aunt Sandy Biersdorfer at gmail.com. And so Aunt is AUNT, and Sandy is SANDI, and then Biersdorfer, BIERSDORFER. And that's at gmail.com.
Awesome.
So
Awesome, Madame. Well, Madame, it has been a pleasure to have you. I am so excited about your books. They're absolutely delightful. I love your illustrations to go with them. Do you have any closing remarks for us?
I'm not really, just, check them out. Check out other children's book authors. We're all, we're so supportive of each other. And, there's some really great books out there. And just because we're not a celebrity doesn't mean our book's not good. I mean, there's a lot of talented people out there. But doing podcasts like this that helps get the message out there. Hey, this is a good book. Hey, And I try to do the same and, sharing it on Facebook or whatever. And, so, and just read something, even if you're an adult and want to read a kid's book, there's nothing wrong with that.
They're really fun. I highly recommend them. And to our listeners, thank you so much for joining us in another episode. Go ahead, give us a like, give us a review, share it with the friends. We're always better when we grow together. Miss Sandra, thank you for joining us. It has been a pleasure.
Oh,
And for
mine too.
everybody,
Thank you so much for having me.
remember, we'll be back next week with another awesome authors. Bye, everyone.